I'm going to continue working down the neck of the wolf. I'm using the 233 raw sienna to add little hairs on the neck. And you can see that we're concentrating these moving towards the right side where the light hits. So I'm putting them in with the sharpened edge of my raw sienna new pastel. And then I want to switch to the 276 buff to add the brighter hairs as I move to the very edge of the wolf's body on the right hand side. And then I will use my Caran d'Ache light yellow to pull the hairs out into the background on that edge. And again, I say if you have a Conte 47 that you want to use instead, you can, but the Caran d'Ache is going to give you a much more intense color. Now I'm adding some white hairs on top of where I added the raw sienna hairs with my Conte white pastel stick. And using my black pastel in between as necessary. So I'm continuing the same pattern that we did on the face. So I'm using the white Conte to add the hairs, careful of the direction, and I'm adding them all one by one. And rotating the stick when it gets dull on one side, so I keep my hairs nice and sharp. I'm varying the length a little bit so it doesn't look so regimented. The hair is not orderly, particularly not on a wolf, and so we want to show that by making sure that there's enough variation in our hairs and strokes. Using the Carbothello 700 to add a few hairs in this area. This is more of a shadowed area. So I don't want them to be as bright. You can see that it picks up the tint of the blue that's underneath it, which is very nice. Back to the white Conte pencil, it's also picking up that blue tint as we move towards the center of the wolf. I'm going to add some more black into here to separate some of these hairs and make it a little bit darker because this is the core shadow area of the wolf. So I'm using my 233 in the shadow under the ear of the wolf as we approach the left side of the animal. And I'm using the edge of the 353 to add some brown and then some blue into this area with the 305 spruce blue and some black. So I'm making this area all darker. Adding a few wild hairs with my white pastel pencil, putting a little curl on the end of them. Adding that variance that it needs to make it look like wild tangled hair. I'm using my carandache to put in some hair on the right side. And I'm going to use my 353 cordovan to add some brown to this area. Now I've moved over behind the ear and I'm using the carandache to add the bright backlit hairs behind the ear and on the left side of the body of the wolf. And I'm using the 276 buff as well. This is the carandache 161 light blue. This is a beautiful pencil. Now I'm using this blue to add the reflected light that's underneath the ear and on the edge between the bright backlit colors on the left side of the wolf, and between it comes between that area and the darkest dark on the wolf. And it's a beautiful blue, and I needed a strong blue in this area, and I really couldn't find a color until I came across this carandache. This is a wonderful pencil. It's well worth the investment to get it. If you don't have one, you can use the Carbothello 440 Sky Blue. Now we're staying with the color. Let's see, this is the 440 Carbothello to show you that you can use that. This is to keep within the color palette that we had. We're using complements. So this blue complements the orange on the moon and the orange on the right side of the wolf. It's just beautiful. Really adds something to the painting. Black underneath the ear. And now back to the blue. And I'm using the Caran d'Ache light yellow for the backlit hairs again, continuing that on down the neck. We're going to continue working down the wolf using the same colors that we've previously used. Using my Conte white pastel to put hairs here and there throughout the fur of the wolf. When I put it over the blue, it just makes the blue a little brighter, which is very nice. I'm adding more black into the fur of the wolf, giving it a little more variety and some additional darks that it needs. I'm adding some hair to the outside edge, finishing that edge up by pulling some additional hair out. Truly looks beautiful. It just pulls it together with that brightness and makes you feel like he really is outside in the moonlight. I'm adding a few more light gray hairs with the Carbothello 700. At this point, you can add as many more details as you want. Adding a few more raw sienna hairs with the 233 edge of the stick. I'm adding gray hairs with the 720. They're just a little bit different color than the 700. And back to the raw sienna. I'm adding the white hairs with the Conte crayon as I move to the outside. I don't want to add the yellow ones until I get to the edge because I want the greatest impact to be up towards the face. So I'm not going to add those until last. So I'm working just on the inside part of the wolf's body. I've changed direction slightly with the hair. It becomes the outside hairs are more horizontal. They just kind of flick outwards. So I'm doing that with my stick. And now I'm using my Caran d'Ache to add those final hairs on the edge. It really adds a beautiful finishing touch to the painting. I'm adding a few white hairs with my white pastel pencil, giving them kind of a wild look. I use this instead of the gray to make them a little bit brighter. It would be your choice. My goal is to give you some techniques to use, and then you can take them and use them and create your own paintings. And now we're adding more of that gorgeous blue. down the back of the neck. That is just so pretty and adds such a pretty accent and helps to create that whole moonlight look that we're after. I'm continuing to use the same colors as I go down to finish up the neck of the wolf. Join me in part 5 as we finish up the wolf in the moonlight.